Greetings. My name is Herman Misoro, and I'm honored to host you on this program, Cold and Hard Facts. We couldn't have better brains around the table to discuss the issues that are around us. Before we get into the meat of what we want to talk about this afternoon, I'm going to introduce who we have on this table, around the table. My friend, my brother, our permanent secretary, Mkoma Nicholas Moyo, in our Ministry of Sport, Recreation, Arts and Culture. And you will go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll go around the table. So you are our guest this afternoon or morning or whatever time a person is watching on their phone.
Thank you so much, Nkoma Hemen Chimsoro. It's a pleasure to be part of this program called and Hard Facts. It's also exciting to be in a room to discuss pertinent issues in the creative sector with gurus like everybody who is on this table. I have the opportunity to have worked with actually all of them at various capacities. Nicholas Moyo, as you have said, is my name. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Sport, Recreation, Arts and Culture for about 1.5 years now. And the past Executive Director of the National Arts Council of Zimbabwe, where I worked at the Arts Council for a combined 20 years, I think, having started as a provincial arts administrator, then became an arts assistant director at the National Arts Council at the head office, then became a deputy director for about 10 years. Then I became the director of the Arts Council for one term, and I was then appointed to be the permanent secretary 2023 in October. Very excited by the issues to do with the creative sector and how we can propel the creative sector to levels of professionalism. I'm a man of one family, a wife, Tsungai. Tamsanga is my firstborn, and Nonhlanhla is my second born, a father of adults, so to speak. I think
you're a father of relatives.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I think that can wind my brief introduction.
Over to me.
Yes.
I'll do it differently again. I'm a creative, so I like doing things differently. There's a difference between a trade and being a jack of all trades. So I'm not a jack of all trades. My trade is I'm a production person, which means I speak video, I speak lighting, I speak sound, I speak broadcast, all the components that are necessary for a production to come into the right space, if I can use that word. That's what I now specialize in, productions. So I'm not a jack of all trades, but the trade requires me to know a little bit about everything. So that has been my journey. I'm also impacted by certain bodies like the National Arts Council in the work that I do, and of course the Ministry of Sport, Recreation, Arts and Culture.
That's correct.
Yes. And before I knew our permanent secretary when I was still at the National Arts Council, I wanted his head because of stories that I had that things are difficult there. So to my surprise, when I then went there, it was like a walk in the park. So I'm a person that likes to do things by the book, both technically and paperwork-wise. And so I've gone around these bodies to just find out how they work, how they do things, so that it can also help me as I try and do things the right way. So when I'm doing things technically, I always try to do it by the book, how it's supposed to be done, so that we can put Zimbabwe on the map. That's one thing I'm focused on, putting Zimbabwe on the map. I've got a young family that supports a lot. Because without family support, this industry of ours can be very difficult. We've got a season that we call silly season. You don't know when it's 2 p.m., when it's 2 a.m. You just have to be working, you know. So you tend to visit home, and you spend most of your time at work. That's me in a nutshell.
Wonderful. Mkoma Anga.
Thank you very much. They call me Aganyabinde. I'm here on behalf of my director, Mr. Napoleon Yani. So I'm the communications and marketing manager for National Arts Council of Zimbabwe, which is an agency of government under the Ministry of Sport, Recreation, Arts and Culture. And I'm excited to be here because I wear so many hats. In my other life, I'm also an Afro jazz artist, an award-winning one, and a beneficiary of inheritance. Yes, I'm most of the times when I introduce myself and I don't mention that I'm the son to the late Bob Nyabinde, people will say that's an incomplete introduction. So
because he had an impact on us, all of us.
True. And the impact is too much because of most of the people around here. I've got to see some of the benefits that people think do not exist through the office of our PS when he was still with the National Arts Council, through the Simura when the board chair was there. You know, there are things like gratuity fund, which people think do not exist, but, you know, my father benefited from those. So, I think our arts administration is doing good, but there is more that people should know.
Thank you. Thank you so much. My brother, Mkoma Albert.
Dumelang batho ba gaeso, salibonani nda. Twalumba. Igama Albert Nyati, ngingu-chairman we-Zimbabwe Music Rights Association. Formerly with the National Arts Council, kudala. I think I joined the National Arts Council in 1991. So we were still in town, Chinoi Street, and then we moved to Kufara Building, 2nd Street, before the Arts Council came to where it is now. So I joined as the Publications and Information Officer, and I was with them for 5 years. I think. No, not 5. I left 1997, so it was more than 5. 97 to pursue the stage. Because while I was I'm like, Nyabinde. I shouldn't call you Nyabinde. You are Aga. Your father was my friend. So, anyway, I worked with the National Arts Council, and for 2 years, I was the acting director of the National Arts Council. I've seen the organization grow. I worked with Uwabu Umoyo, Nicholas. We grew up together. But it's interesting that we are still together, more or less in the same field. So this is me. I have 3 children, 1 girl, 2 boys, and a wife.
Wonderful.
Thank
you so much. Hi, Mkoma, thank you.
Thank you so much. Kuthiwa indlamuva inkosi. All right. My name is Mbakin Leah, and first of all, I'm really grateful that I'm on the table with my fathers, both literally and in the industry. Yes, and they've supported me a lot to be where I am. It's actually through them. And it's actually a blessing to actually sit on a table and actually deliberate on issues. You know, I regard it as promotion. All right. Basically, I'm in the show business, but my major thing is skills transfer. I run a college called Audio Academy, which is soon rebranding to be called the Institute of Media and Creative Arts, because first of all, we're majoring only in sound, But like I've usually said, that sound in a production does not work in isolation, right? So that means that whenever you do sound, you need to understand a bit of light, you need to understand a bit of all these other things, right? So my major thing in the showbiz is skills transfer. And we've, as the Academy, we have had quite a number of programs that have been developed in order to disseminate information to the stakeholders, and of which I think the biggest one is the AV Expo, which we started last year, right, where we saw stakeholders and the consumers gathering under one roof, either to get educated, to get exposure to whatever is available, because I believe that the role of the Academy and these programs helps propel the agenda of the arts sector forward. Yes. So that's just my niche, and that's where I feel I specialize in. Yeah, and that way it helps, I believe to a great extent, it helps standardize our practices to the international community. Yes. I am a father of two, a boy and a girl, and I'm married to one wife. Her name is Ubongani, right? And above all, I am a Christian.
Yes, wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And before we get into the meat of the discussion, I want to introduce our sister, if you don't mind. She's part of our discussion here today, and she has come. So introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you, Herman. My name is Nora Takaindesa. I'm from the Ministry of Sport, Recreation, Arts and Culture as the Deputy Director of Communications and Broadcast. I'm here to accompany my peers so that he's here to talk about how are we promoting the arts and the creative sector. Wow. So thank you.
Thank you so much. We are honored that you are here with us. Okay. Thank you so much. Before I open up, I just want to speak to everybody out there in our country of Zimbabwe. I know we have got other people watching from different places of the world, in different parts of the world, United Kingdom, Ireland, Australia, United States. And you're all interested in what is going on in our arts industry in the country. And you are involved. You are a consumer of the arts products in the country. So as we have been having this program, there has been a lot of engagement, a lot of contributions. And this particular sit down that we have was inspired, or it came into being today because one of our former residents of Zimbabwe is now in the United Kingdom. Many of us will be familiar with the name Steve Roskilly. He engaged on Facebook and used to run Shade Studios. And he's been engaging, and he said, I'm so happy to see that you guys are coming around the table and talking about all these issues. Then he posed the question and says, could you enlighten us on what do we do if we want to bring equipment into the country? What are the procedures? What is happening? What do I go through if I want to bring equipment into our country in Zimbabwe? And I responded, I said, thank you for your question, and this is a very relevant question because I don't think you are the only one who has got this question. But I don't want to answer this question directly to you or in the inbox because there are many other people who have the same question. The question that you have asked, I have been a beneficiary to the answer to that question, or beneficiary of the answer to that question. I'm going to take it upon myself to engage, to speak to voices of authority that have been instrumental in helping me bring everything that I use. I run a company called Crossline Music and Video. Everything that we have right now is coming through that particular vehicle and the help that was extended to me. And I'm so happy and blessed that at this table, our former director of the National Arts Council, Mkoma Nicholas Mo, who is now our permanent secretary, has been involved in the whole process. Very hands-on, very passionate. So I said, would you mind coming to the table and speaking? And then I said, you know what, being familiar with that process, how the role that ZIMRA plays, the Zimbabwe Music Rights Association plays, the role that the National Arts Council plays, why don't you come to the table? And then I invited my friends, Mkoma Simba and Mbaki. Said, let's come, let's talk to people about this. People want to know, people have questions. I have things that I want to bring into the country. I want to bring, then one of the questions that always comes is, do you know how much stress I get when I approach the Zimbabwe border with things on me? That the border induced stress. I said, there is no reason for you to be stressed because there are mechanisms, there are facilities in place. If you know about them and how to go about them, you can benefit from this, and this can be of help. So I'm going to hand over to you and talk, and then we have some other pointers that we're going to talk. So, by the way, when we say arts, we're not just talking about music. We're talking about film, we're talking about poetry, we're talking about all the visuals, dancing, sculptors and everybody. So everybody's involved in that because we all have some kind of equipment, some facilities, things that make our trade possible. So I'm handing over to you so we can talk about this.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's a very critical area to explain issues. I think the challenge which we've had is also how do we make information accessible to end users. And thank you, my brother, for putting this program together, because it will be one of those programs that we can use to educate the sector.
Yes.
I think many a times we have allowed the middleman to be the one who is running around, getting papers, doing things, and by so doing, we've created also challenges for the sector. So, in 2003, the government of Zimbabwe decided to make a bold step in extending a duty-free cover for musical instruments and sound equipment. At that time, because it was a time, I think, in the early 20s when we're talking about the urban grooves, and that's when we started the galas in the country, and then there was so much push for consuming local music, but there was not enough equipment to produce that local music. There was not enough equipment to allow the urban groove artists to practice with. So the policy of trying to open up opened a crisis, a challenge. And to solve it in 2003, the government put a statutory instrument which is administered by ZIMRA, the Zimbabwe Revenue Authority. Because when you talk about customs, when you talk about duty, it's like you are saying if people import for free, you are taking away possible revenues for government, which government should then use it to run government, whether schools, hospitals, roads, and things like that. So we needed a statutory instrument. Government passed a statutory instrument in 2003 to cover only musical instruments and sound equipment at that time. And people then asked, but how do we access that facility? The facility has been there for now 22 years, and most of the sound rigs you see in this country has been brought in through that equipment. Most of the huge rigs you see even in churches and mega churches in this country has been through that facility. What does the facility do? Mukoma Hemen, is that let's say you are an artist. The requirement first is that you need to be known that you are an artist. You can't wake up and say, I'm a creative and therefore I want to have access to this. If we do that, it means we will then wake up in the morning and find so many tuck shops in town selling that equipment. So you wanted to benefit. So if you're an artist, you need to be a registered artist. A registered artist with registered arts organizations. And in this case, I will say maybe Zimura. All right, because they are on the table. But many other arts council will know the music associations that are registered in this country. So when you're a member of that, the association then writes a letter of recommendation or introduction to say to the Arts Council, Nicholas Moyo is our member.
Yes.
Membership number so and so. He intends to import 4 guitars, a rhythm, bass, 2 bass, and leads, and they will be coming through this invoice.
Yes.
So attach the invoice and indicate which port of entry that equipment is coming through.
Yes.
The National Arts Council writes a cover letter, which is really a recommendation letter,
Yes.
to the commissioner of ZIMRA to now certify that this individual artist is registered and is supposed to get that benefit of the statutory instrument. So, attached is your invoice. The invoice has to be a correct invoice because government wants to know how much money you are supposed to pay, and that's what is a rebate that government is giving back to you. And let me be very clear that that instrument has actually been one of the largest funding of the sector from government by virtue that government, instead of collecting revenue, writes off that revenue. So it's a donation. It's not a donation. It's an investment into the sector. And on good years, it has been going in the range of 1.5 million when in years when people import a lot of equipment. And if you calculate for the last 22 years, it has literally been at that level. So when ZIMRA receives, the commissioner then writes a duty-free certificate, which then arms you that on the time your equipment arrives, you then produce, in lieu of paying duty, you then produce the duty-free certificate, and then you bring in your equipment. The bottleneck has been knowledge. I think, Simba, before we spoke about this thing, it was really knowledge. And many people pay duties because they didn't know. Many people suffer a lot because they didn't know. They only hear about these things very late. The Arts Council at times finds difficulties when people are working and they're sitting in your office and they want the letter done because the equipment is now collecting. It's at the border, you failed to pay. Someone then whispers, and says, but didn't you know there is this facility? And it's, it's the ramage, or duty, and things like that. And then people are rushing and they're coming. Let me, as I wind up, and say, the letter that the National Arts Council writes to ZIMRA, if you'll remember, it has 2 signatories. Because that letter is like a letter of demand to withdraw revenue which was going to ZIMRA to come to the sector. So government does not allow one person, so the director just doesn't sign. Within the Arts Council, there is a system and only certain signatories that are accepted at ZIMRA because it's about revenue. So it's an important, and that instrument is still there. There was a rumor, I think, some few years ago, when people just woke up and say, no, the instrument is no longer functioning. But look, people that use sound equipment, use musical instruments, be they registered promoters, registered venues, religious organizations that are registered, can use these facilities.
Wonderful.
And benefit the country with good facility.
Wonderful. Yeah, and, as you said, this is important for everybody in the arts sector to be familiar with this because the lack of knowledge can cause a lot of confusion and assumptions. And then you begin to spread, false information. So this is a facility that is available to us. Mkoma Simba, what's your experience with this?
Again, I love to just twist and turn things around.
Excellent.
The challenge we have is a lack of professionalism. Imagine people would complain our roads are not good. That's why we have this and this problem. Roads are fixed. Then we say, no, people are now driving fast. The government needs to put humps. They put humps. Then people say, no, the humps are not big enough. But what are you doing as a people? What are we doing as a people? If you enter into this arts sector as a tryout, it becomes difficult for you to benefit from a line that has been put for professionals. Like he said, your equipment is now at the border. Then you're like, I need duty free. How do I get duty free? It doesn't work that way. When you went into arts, when you went into sound, when you went into lighting, what was your motive? And are you being professional about it? So you've got to register your company. You've got to register even as an individual. So you've got to go through the process. And those that go through that process will definitely benefit from things that are done through the right process. Now, I mean, when you use that duty-free facility, the only thing that you pay is VAT. Now, for example, if my company is registered for VAT, it means, again, it's not a lot of money that I'm paying at the end of the day, because at the end of my submissions to ZIMRA, there's input and output in terms of the VAT. So which means when I go into a shop, I buy spare parts for my car, I'm charged VAT, I'm maintaining proper accounting records. So at the end of the day, like how he's put it, it will balance out, and at the end of the day, you're actually not paying a lot of money, but you're benefiting from whatever system has been put in place. So the challenge on our end is we are not professional enough. And so we then tend to suffer, because the benefit really has to come when you are just following the proper structures that are supposed to be there. So here you have no relationship with National Arts Council. You are now starting to say, how do I register? But you've been in the industry for 15 years. Anything that has a relationship, it becomes easier for you to then get things done. Now, I know a lot of people are looking at me right now. They are like, we would have wanted you to say something that pins the government. But honestly, I have nothing to say that will pin the government right now.
Exactly.
It's a cold, hard fact.
It's a cold, hard fact. If it's something that's been helping us, it's helping us.
So I've been helped a lot of times. And like I said in my introduction, the first time I went for that rebate facility, I'd come from a place where there was a lot of noise around these things don't work, government this, government that. We talk behind the scenes. Baki, we talk behind the scenes, So like I said, he was still at the National Arts Council then. I was like, we will fight tooth and nail until we get this done. We get there and things are just smooth. They're just smooth. And I'm like, so it really doesn't take that much to get that. But the key thing is we are not professional enough on our end. And so these councils don't even know you as an artist. They don't know you as a company. But when you now need to bring in things, that's when you now want to be known.
Along those lines, I have a question that I'm going to pose to Mkoma Albert and also PEMSEC. The reason why I say it's a question for you, because you are in the Zimbabwe Music Rights Association. An artist happens to own or to be a director of an organization that's also an arts organization. How do we reconcile those two? How does a person access that facility as an artist and also as a head of an organization that runs an arts outfit? How does he apply? How does he get to benefit? Does he have...
It's who owns. Is it the artist or the arts organization? Also remember, the law says you cannot dispose of that equipment for how many years? 5 years?
5 years.
5 years. So you need. So if it's personal things to yourself, then it's easy. You're already a composer and you're registered with Zemura, then Zemura covers you. But if you are deciding, I'm importing these things as cross-line. So cross-line, if cross-line is already registered with the National Arts Council, then you don't need to go to another registered organization, which is Zimura. So the cross line is the one that does the application.
Yes.
So for me, it's really, but unfortunately, if cross line is not a member-driven association, Crossline cannot write a letter on behalf of Aganya Bind, you know, because we are not maybe Albert, you wanted to.
Yeah, I think you're on point. At Zimura, we receive from members who are registered with us, we receive such requests, and then we write a recommendation letter or recommendation letters for them to take those to the National Arts Council. And then at least the Arts Council can now be sure, because the Arts Council is a huge entity. Yes. They cannot know everyone everywhere. Mm-hmm. So when people belong to organizations like Zimura, it becomes easier because they are registered. We have a trail. We everything is there. It's worked that way.
Wonderful.
And you spoke of Steve Roskilly.
Yes.
By the way, he's the one who recorded Senzenina.
Oh.
Yeah.
He's a treasure.
He's our treasure.
He's a treasure.
Indeed.
Yeah. And we thank him for bringing this topic up.
Yeah. But this statutory instrument is very important. Yeah. As the PEMSEC said, Umoyo, it came at the right time. Yeah. Remember, around about that time, we had, urban grooves, but we also had another act, the 75% local that helped a lot. Of course, the initial worry was the suddenness of it all, that you have untrained producers. Simple. Untrained producers, suddenly the floodgates are opened. And, we had some poor sound at some point initially, but that was necessary. Yeah. We needed to go through that process and look at what has come of it. Mm-hmm. All these youngsters. Because when I grew up, we had Radio 1, Radio 2, Radio 3, Radio 4. Each one of those had, of course, Radio 2 at the time. I don't know if youngsters would know what Radio 2 at the time. Radio 2 really played lots of local, but most of the stations would play international. Yes. I don't know what we mean by international, because when we go elsewhere, they say we are international. So we had amazing DJs like Peter Jones, and Kozi Marudza, and so on and so forth, Ezra Chisa. But what happened is that the music played at the time was mainly international music, so to speak. Yeah. And youngsters didn't have a leeway, particularly what we call Power FM now, was then Radio 3. Yeah. And then when that policy came, the statutory instrument, what do you call it? The 75% local content. When that came, we saw a lot of youngsters suddenly coming up. And that helped a lot. This is why today we have all these youngsters, getting everywhere, internationally, locally. And our people now appreciate. Right. When it started, people were like, is there content? Is there content? And what really added to that challenge is the poor production at the time, which I said was necessary. Right. Because for me, it was a journey. Yeah. And this is where we are today.
Thank you.
With the best. Look at
engineers we have back in passing on skills in the Simba. Yeah.
What more do we want?
Yeah. Let's hear from Aga.
Thank you very much. I'm happy that my office has a lot of senior experience, so my work is made lighter. But thank you very much, Pastor Herman, for this program, because there has been a lot of misconception around this statutory instrument. Sure. So just to let a little bit on what the PS has said and the experience from Koma Simba. What we are talking about is the statutory instrument 136 of 2003, for reference of those that want to go into detail with it. and it is rebate on duty of equipment imported by registered arts organizations. So some people wonder the type of equipment that is covered on this SI, which is recording equipment. We are talking about broadcasting equipment. We are talking about musical equipment. You mentioned your guitars, your keyboards.
Yes.
We are talking about public address systems. These are for performers, for churches. So it covers quite a lot, but also excludes the importation of the spare parts and consumables, because we want to minimize abuse of this facility. You know, someone will order a truckload of consumables or spare parts, and now they end up in downtown there for sale.
Yeah. So while you're on that one, because you just mentioned it, I want you to continue. How does that affect people who are buying, say, for a business, and they want to resell sound equipment and so forth? So we talk about that because there is that question.
Okay. These are for practicing artists that are buying for the sake of use.
Yes.
So if you are buying for business, you are excluded from this one.
Yes.
Yeah, you need to follow the normal procedure. This is government giving back to practicing artists, practicing creatives. Yeah. So with that act, just to unpack registered arts organizations, which means we need to be known through the National Arts Council of Zimbabwe.
Yes.
And sometimes people wonder, how do I get registered? The processes are very simple depending on your capacity as an institution. We are very glad that right now we are also now registering individual artists. And all you need is a profile of what you do and your national ID. And we know this is Aganyabinde, he's a musician, he does this and this and that, because we want to confirm that legitimacy, that you are actually an artist. And if it's an arts organization, we need to have your constitution, your membership, what you constitute, what you do. So as long as that information is available, the process is very simple, like what Simba has just said. Our problem that we are having that has caused the National Arts Council this year to push is professionalism. Most of our creatives do not want to professionalize. Some people think, because we start these conversations, they are now coming to me for text. So, but yet Zimra is there also to benefit you with these SIs that can. So this year, our drive was, let us professionalize, let us register ourselves as artists, because we benefit a lot from government, but we need to prove to government that we are a huge industry. So if we are asked, how many creatives are there in Zimbabwe? You know, the actual practicing creatives that are actually exporting talent do not want to own up and say, we are here. So now when it comes to, let's say, the Arts Development Fund, which is supposed to benefit us, we appear as if we are a very small sector, and yet we are a huge sector. So this year we are saying, every creative, please come, let's register.
So what do you say to those people who, like Mkoma Simba talked about, who spread information that is incorrect, and they'll say, oh yeah, you'll be segregated against, and there's favoritism for this. What is your experience as the regulating body, National Arts Council?
We have had to deal with a lot of misconception. And it's a pity that artists have got a huge mass of influence. And when you have got wrong information and you are blowing it out there, it becomes a problem to handle. So what I'm saying is, I want to appeal to every artist who wants detailed and accurate information to visit the National Arts Council. And because of the new ease of doing business, we have digitalized. Information is accessible everywhere. If you go to National Arts Council website right now, there's information on registration. There's information on every other thing that we do. We have got opportunities that are coming through government as well. This year, we have a film grant for film producers, which is also funded through the Ministry of Sport, Recreation, Arts and Culture. And people out there are saying the government is not giving away anything. And yet the opportunities are there, but information is not there. And we also introduced a live chat box on our website as well for people who want to ask direct questions and get direct response. So you can't go and ask another person sitting under a tree to say, how does the National Arts Council operate?
There.
And yet there is all these portals. You can use social media to ask. The comment section is there. These days we've got keyboard warriors. Please ask us. We are there to serve. We are there to provide information.
Wonderful, wonderful. Go on, Baki. Want to hear from? I know you're itching to talk.
Not necessarily. Actually, today I'm the one who's learning the most. Who's learning the most?
There you go.
Yeah. I'm learning the most. But probably just to what I need to share the most, I think, starting with what Aga has said, I think National Arts Council and Proud Audio Academy need to have a dialogue and actually make a module out of this, because talent alone is not enough, you know, because you can be talented, but if you don't have probably business acumen and understanding how things work, you'll always be taken advantage of. So I think there's something probably to also push your agenda for professionalism, right? Another thing that I want to kind of shed light on, I know you've spoken out of offices as people in offices, but I just want to share this to the consumer as the people actually use the things on the ground. The people who do register with the thing, there's a lot of pros that actually come with this. And I think Pastor Simba mentioned that it becomes very easy to do things, to get things right. It reduces a lot of stress, you know, and stuff like that. I did put down a few points while you're talking. Probably one of the advantages being part of these organizations is that it gives you a lot of networking opportunities, because it does not necessarily mean that because you're under National Arts Council on its own, there are no opportunities. Some things will come through. They'll definitely give it to their database, and this is what's there. So that those networking opportunities are necessary. And most of us, we rely on talent. And I believe that these organizations also represent us in terms of legalities, lots of legalities. They represent us. Probably if I then go and say I'm under Zimura and I know Botswana has been playing my music, you know, they've got all those things and say, no, don't worry, my boy, we'll sort you out, and then we get out 30%. You don't understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it really gives a lot of things. And then another thing, like what Aga was saying, is that this year they're trying to push an agenda for professionalism, right? So it also helps develop you as an individual outside your own talent, mentally, in terms of what you need to bring out, probably be it in the area of promotion, registering as a business, other things. There's lots of things, I think, And another thing probably is, like what you rightfully mentioned, funding and grants are some of the things that you can actually benefit from that, right? And then also advocacy, right, which is a really major, and I think I'll leave it to her and then she think, which is really key, right? Some of us, I know, we haven't been schooled in the area of arts, may not know what these are, but I believe some of these organizations, once you knock on their door, they can be able to present some of the pros that you can actually receive from them. And then another thing is access to resources. Remember, the wheels of an industry are always evolving, always getting better and stuff like that. So there may be resources. For example, just a couple of weeks back, when I was reading the paper, noticed that the president was rolling out ICT equipment for educational institutions and stuff like that. So also, when there shall come a time when some of these things knock at your door, but be ready, because opportunities come during the process of preparation. So always be preparing yourself in order to be aligned by registering in some of these things. Another thing is recognition and your own personal credentials. So, for example, if Pastor Simba then goes to say, let's say somewhere else and says, guys, you know, I've been doing this and this, and I'm associated with the National Arts Council, which does this, it gives you a bit of gravity as an individual. You understand of who you are. So there's lots of things these are things that I was just picking while everybody was talking. So on the area as consumers, as the practitioners, right, the consumers of these organizations, I would really greatly suggest to go and find a small little thing according to what you can to be part of these organizations as quick as possible. Another thing that I wanted to highlight is that I think we, myself included, we really don't know how big the arts sector of any nation is, because number one, without the arts sector on itself, right, we can't, for example, push publicity for tourism. How other people know that there's probably Victoria Falls because they saw it in a music video, beyond on some of these things. So the arts sector plays a key role in oiling the various industries and various ministries in the entire nation. So it needs to be taken seriously. And the only way in which it can be taken seriously is if we understand and know how things work within the arts sector as an organization. I'll give you an example. All of us here, we're talking about that the duty-free facility is for musical instruments and people, mostly music. But there is also the area of film, right? I've done quite a lot of research, right? For example, in films, our sound, for example, because I'm in the area of sound, our sound for film is bad.
It's terrible.
It's terrible, right? But there's some other arms in film, like the sound design, right? There is scores, and music scores where they need to be. This is what people don't understand is you can be a musician, but not be a performing musician. If you concentrate on scores, register with Zemura, your music, you can be able to get a bit of revenue out of that. You understand, right? And then some other things that you can about. Thing is field work. Sound for film in the field is not as easy as people think. People say that film is 50% sound. Others argue and say it's actually 70% sound, because sometimes if the picture is bad and the audio is good, you can tolerate. But if it's the other way around, you put it in the trash. You understand? So all these things, I believe the National Arts Council will actually help you import some of these things. You need to understand what Dolby Atmos is, and if you don't know what Dolby Atmos is, you won't know what to import, and you won't know how the National Arts will be able to to assist you in that regard, right? And then there's another one which is quite major, which is Foley. You understand? Foley design, especially in the area of film and sound, plays a very important role. And there's some elements, microphones and all these things, they can be brought in. Things in our sector, they're not as cheap as people think it is. I think that's why that, that SI was put into place to make it affordable and then grow the sector, which we greatly, really appreciate.
So someone comes to his body equipment for the first time, and they have a question, and they say, I'm going to Zemura to get my application in. How much time process are they looking at before it gets to Zemura? With
Zemura, it's very easy. We have staff, administration, those people who work in the office are always available. The only challenge is when you have your equipment at the border, say Bedbridge. Do you know that I did that? When it started, I actually imported from South Africa. When it started, it was very difficult because then you need, you have receipts, right? And you needed to get them down to the Arts Council at the time and then go back. It's easier now. I mean, with social media, communication is easier. It was really an issue of communication. So at Zemura, it's very easy. They get there because they are members. We communicate regularly with them. That letter can be written in a day. I mean, not even in a day. When you come in, it can be done just instantly. Then you take it to the rightful authority, which is the National Arts Council.
And then from the National Arts Council.
Yes. But talking about professionalism, I was listening, and he spoke of tax. I was paying my tax today.
Wow.
Zimra,
That's good.
And I think it's a subject really for another day.
Because
it is very important.
It's important.
People think that it's so difficult. No. The only challenge I have with Zimra, I've talked to them. The only challenge I have is this, that I want to try and be creative and concentrate on creation. And the thing about accounts is difficult. But I always want to ensure that I pay. And that I do. I just paid today.
But Albert, your challenge is not Zimra. Your challenge is because you continue at the level where you are. And you still don't have a manager, because that's the role. Yes, it's important. When we are professionalizing the industry, we can't be a jack
of all trades.
It's separated the trade, but then you become the creator, the producer, the marketer, and the consumer. So it's important. Maybe it's for another day, but it's
for
important.
another
I think,
day.
I think,
But
I think, I think
people
professionalism
people need to
needs
get-
to be looked
Yeah.
at its broader sense. If this sector continues being an informal sector, you can't professionalize an informal sector. So the more we push our teams, artists at individual level, arts organizations, they should know that they need to be formal. Have books of accounts, have bank accounts.
Yes.
I was arguing with my team the other day and saying, 2025, you should not pay any art group that you hire for a state event and they write the contract and put the name of the director, that they should be paid through a director. For hiring a dance group, they should be paid through their account as a dance group.
That's good.
So as government, we are moving forward to insist on that. We're not going to hire any dance group for any event which is not registered with the National Arts Council. And we'll be pushing that through the other ministries. Why we think as government we need also to be in the forefront of also creating an environment that makes the sector start saying, okay, so it is this important. Why, Pastor Chimsoro? It's also because when people look and say, but what is government doing for us, the artists? I sit, because I've been through this journey from 1982. I sit and say, who is government? What are we doing ourselves for the government that we are demanding it to do for us?
Right.
You talk about tourism, maybe well structured. You can tell how much has gone to tourism in a particular year. And when you have done that, Honorable Professor Mtuli then says, I think we need to give tourism so much so that they up their game because we can measure what they can give.
Right.
Can we measure
Right.
how much the creative sector in this country is contributing to the economy? For us to go back and say to Professor Mtuli, this is how much we are contributing. So we need more investment from government to ensure that this sector we can push to the next level. So we talk about professionalism, we talk about formalization. There are many issues, thanks to Mfowethu, when he says, I pay tax.
Yes.
And we need artists who can stand and say, no, we pay tax. And therefore, we demand so much to be done in this industry.
So I was actually going to say that people think that it's difficult. It's not difficult to pay tax and get your tax clearance certificate.
The benefits of it.
This is why I actually thought that it needs a whole, with Zimra here, we talk about it, and it becomes easier. It's transparent. So when you say that, it's in response to the actual, the bigger picture, the artists that we have, the difficulties that they have in thinking about tax. How do I do it? It should simply be easy. But what, Mr. Moyo, I was going to think that I'm feeling that I think you have, if we look at the entire country and the many small groups that exist, some of whom cannot even manage a manager. What I was thinking is that possibly you could have a pool of managers who would, you have this one managing maybe 5 different groups or 5 different artists. It's easier because he needs to be paid. It's not just management. He needs to be paid. And if that revenue for him comes from 5 different entities, and his business is that, he's looking at accounts and bookings and so on and so forth. When I travel to Europe for performances, we have a tour agent whose business it is just to get us shows. He's not a manager. He always insisted, he's called Crispin Thomas, always insisted, I'm not your manager. I'm your tour agent. He just simply, his business is to get shows. And your business is to sleep and compose and wake up and check your schedule. Tomorrow we are in Wales.
Yeah.
We're in Belgium. We are, that kind of thing. Which is what Mokomba is doing. If you check with Mokomba, they have a structured, proper management. So these are the things you are talking about when you talk of management.
Sure. Let me interject you on, on that.
Yeah.
The importance of what our permanent secretary has mentioned about us, professionalizing and becoming business-like in what we do. The importance of those details and having organization and putting the house in order, because that order brings identity. So let me speak a little bit from my experience in bringing equipment into the country and what has happened, especially with the tax clearance and everything. So when I bring equipment in the country, sound equipment or video equipment, like you're talking about microphones and everything, all my speakers, everything, my amplifiers, line array systems and so forth, they've got the model numbers, serial numbers, everything, name of manufacturers, invoices, the freight, who is freighted, from my experience with where there's DHL or whatever freight company I use. All those, and then I make photocopies, many copies. My copies exist in multiple places. I have copies for Zimura. I have copies for the National Arts Council. And then copies for ZIMRA, which is the Revenue Authority, Revenue Collection Authority. So that equipment has come into the country. And I've kept all those details, serial numbers, all those. And the manufacturing company that I bought from also has a copy of all those things. Why am I saying all this? I'm hired to go and do a function outside the country.
Yeah.
And I need to take this equipment out of the country. That same equipment, I have those 4 copies that show when this equipment was cleared, it came into the country. It becomes much easier for me to present those documents through my bank. The bank makes an application for me to the Reserve Bank for the CD1 forms, your customs declaration, because you're going out of the country. Your equipment is inside the system. So because you don't want to pay duty again when the equipment is being re-imported into the country. So this is the importance of you having your tax clearance and all your paperwork. And because when you get to the border, they're looking at that you're exporting your equipment because you're going to work. You want to pay your taxes when you come back because you gain some income when when you're out there. You go with the equipment, it goes out. When I'm coming back, I don't go through all the pain and the hassles of trying to prove this equipment was inside the country already, because it's the paperwork, the systems, the ASCUDA system has it inside that this equipment was inside the country. The Prime Minister said that we want to make sure that we start promoting having organizational names before you to be hired. I don't want to be the person who is doing all the paperwork. I empower or delegate someone to do the customs paperwork, the bills of entries. We've got the drivers, we've got all these people. So you can sit back and concentrate on the core duties that you're hired to do while someone else is doing that. When we are coming back into the country, we just say to our the cargo person or the person who does our agent, here is the equipment. So he says, go back and sleep in your vehicles while I go through the process. Once it's done, you're coming back into the country. They will just look and they'll see everything. The serial numbers are all telling. Sometimes they will say, we want to have a PE, which is your physical examination, to just confirm you didn't buy something else or you didn't sell something else outside the country. This comes again to what Mkoma Aga was saying. You're not trying to abuse the system. So you're not trying to sneak something else into what you took out of the country and trying to bring it back in. So this has been my experience. If you have your paperwork, your paper trail will speak for you, and it'll work for you. So I don't know, Mkoma Aga.
Yes, thank you very much.
Mkoma Simba is all coming in on that.
Maybe before you respond,
Okay.
respond with this as well.
Yeah.
I'm taking the question somewhere. If you can include any pricing, like an individual, how much do they pay to be part of the National Arts Council?
Okay, thank you very much. For individual artists, it starts at $20 registration fee per annum.
Okay.
So for the whole year, you just pay $20.
So for the whole year,
Yes.
$20, you register with National Arts Council. When they have grants coming through, they can look at their list and say, we've got $1 million grant coming through. We are looking for an artist to give $100,000. And then you start complaining that we are not being given these opportunities. But for $20, you are now part of that database. And then we say the government is doing nothing.
Exactly.
Let's just be
Right.
professional.
So, just to add on that, so part of what our mandate, what we have been tasked by the government to do, we do capacity building and training. And this year we have done one workshop in Harare where we were training on some of these issues. We brought in Zimra to also train creatives about taxation. And you find that it's all about narrowing the information gap. You can be taught how to manage, because creativity is a process. You know, if I am an artist, we start from production, you know, and there's need for production professionals to engage on the production part. Then there's professionals on the marketing part when the music is out there. Distribution itself, we had a distribution expert, Mr. Fuchard, teaching people on now the recent distribution techniques that are there. Because we have gone past through the era of record labels, whatever it may be, we now have international distributors. And Zimra was teaching people about taxation, to say, we are not going to be taking all your money. All we want to know is Mr. Bapiro, he had a show somewhere. This is the money that he put in. This is the money that he came. If you incur the loss, just record that you incur the loss. No one is coming for your loss. But now if you don't declare that you had a show and you paid for the PA system, you paid for that, we will know the income that you have. We will not know the expenses that you incurred. And then it's now working to your disadvantage. But no, if you can declare your books and say, I did a show, I paid my band, I paid this and this, and I had $1 to spare. So my tax is so much. You can pay your 50 cents, and you are contributing meaningfully.
That's why I said it's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
An artist is coming from outside the country.
Yes.
They have certain special equipment that they want to use or play, or for their event.
Yes.
And you also have the local organization that is handling the visiting artist. What mechanisms do you have in place for assisting with a temporary import of that equipment that's going to leave the country? And I'm saying this because we had an experience indeed. I had to call our then National Arts Council director, and artist was on stage. We had a keyboard that was stuck at Zimra at the border. And I was like, he needs to come in. And then I had to make a phone call. What do we have? You maybe want to jump in and talk about that.
I think, thanks, Amen.
Yeah.
Communication is important. I think when international artists are coming into the country, courtesy of a promoter, it is important to declare in advance the type. When you sign with contracts with them, they may tell you this is the type of sound equipment that I want. Some of them actually, in the technical writer, they will specify even the brand of the sound equipment that they want. And in there, then they tell you, because guitars, for example, are personalized things. It's personalized to the musician. So it's important then that management team submits to the promoter the list of equipment that they are going to bring for their show with the serial numbers. You take note, it goes to the National Arts Council. The National Arts Council writes to Zimra, to Customs, to say, we've already cleared such and such an artist under this promoter, and they will be bringing such equipment. And we're applying for temporary importation of the equipment. It's very important. I want to bring in something. According to the laws of the country, at the point of importation, you are supposed to pay a deposit as a surety that for sure you will re-export. You are here for 3 days, 4 days. You are going to the airport. You are now going back. The artist is now going back. He wants to claim now the money. And they don't work like that. Once the money comes in, it gets deposited. So when you now claim, they don't count the money to you. So you need now to make a claim.
Yes.
So when we then engaged, we saw that this creates a challenge, image-wise. What if it takes so long to then get the money? That international artist, what is he saying about Zimbabwe? Yeah. So we came to an agreement that then why the National Arts Council now becomes the one that writes it, because the National Arts Council presents itself to ZIMRA as the underwriter. And there's a surety that this equipment is going to be re-exported. Yeah. However, we have also had challenges, gentlemen, of some people bringing in equipment thinking it will not be checked. And after that, they come and say, no, but now they want to donate it to us. All right. Now it's creating difficulties. Who will trust you? You may actually have known that you wanted to evade the other process of clearing equipment, because artists or promoters have these other stories that nobody's donating it to us.
They're creative.
They are being artistic.
They're being creative. So yes, the temporary import facility is there, and it needs to be used. You also talked about CDI, CD1
forms,
the customs declaration.
Yeah.
They are also important when our artists are going outside the country.
Yes.
You are carrying your saxophone, and you are going to perform, or you are going on a holiday, and you decided to go with it. And you just carry and move, saying, it's mine, I will come back. And so the day you are coming back,
Stress.
then they say, but you are importing this. You are now saying, no, but it's mine, I went with. Who knew that you took this? These laws are there all over the world. So we are only saying to our artists, to our creatives, it's important, I think, once you are part of the Arts Council, you are part of the ecosystem, you are able to access this information for free, and people help you to fill in your CD1 forms. And you go, and when you come back, you are clean. You bring in your stuff, everything is okay.
Thank you.
No, thank
you
for
so
that.
much. Thank you. That's the helpful.
Yeah. Hey, people are going to think I work for government. Disclaimer: I'm a creative.
Government works for you.
This is called hard facts. Yes, they work for us, and we are not utilizing what they've actually put in place for us, and that's why I'm quite vocal about it, because I've benefited from that system, not from anyone, but from the system that has been put in place. Problem yedu tinosanganisa madiri. If you're bringing an artist, supporting the last point that you've just said, you are bringing in an artist, you know your show is in December 2025, and they've got a DW snare, they've got zillion K cymbals, whatever the case may be. You can even approach an agent, a clearing agent. If you say, okay, I don't want to go through National Arts Council or whatever, there's another way you can even do it. Then they can put on their bond, and then your equipment comes in. You don't pay any money. You just pay whatever percentage to your agent, and then the equipment comes in. The problem is when those symbols come in, you now want to add on a little GoPro camera. Then when it's told you can't put this through, then you start saying the government has a problem. No, if you want to import the camera on its own. If your show and your business model is, I want to bring in this artist, then make your money from there. So my chorus today is, let's professionalize.
I want to encourage
individual
to have a spreadsheet of your equipment.
Exactly.
You have a sheet, a log of your equipment. It becomes easier when you do the listing. It becomes easier to present the listing. It's, you got columns, model quantities, serial numbers, and so forth, and value as well. And the value that really helps when you're taking it out and taking it in. When our permanent secretary Mukwamo said, when artists are coming into the country, they have demands. They specify to that letter. They'll specify to the type, to this, you know how it is like, and they will look at equipment, because if you say in your contract we're going to provide that particular piece of equipment, and then they come in and they don't see that particular, you already stated in your contract that you're going to do it, they can stop playing because it's a breach of contract. They can stop playing because it's a breach of contract. You've been doing sound. You talk to us about that and all the specifications of equipment.
All right. Specifications of equipment really is important because it greatly contributes to how the artists will deliver their performance and also upholding their end of the contract. But one thing that I probably wanted to say, probably also in support of Simba, is that us as artists, be it probably on a local level or international level, we just don't understand how systems work. You understand? And we just need to get educated on how things work, right? I think that's the most important thing, because our bosses here can be able to say information or whatever and stuff like that, and we turn a blind eye and say, it wasn't going to run and get here and everything, but eventually it then affects us. And like you rightfully said, most of the times, eventually when the artist is now here, the technical people are ones that are affected the most. You understand? And I think you've had shows whereby you had to compromise, and let's say they asked for a hardkey guitar amp and you did not probably do the due diligence properly, and then you now need to use an MPEG. And I said, this is not what I actually required. You understand? The effect of such things not only paints black the image of the organizer and the show, but the country as a whole. You understand? Because wherever we are, the sound that we make and everything, we're not representing self, we're representing the rest of the country. So I think it's really key that whatever we then do, right, like you say, let's learn how the systems work. And I think probably I may just for the sake of, because I do know that it's a tedious task, moving from office to office to office. I'll probably implore the National Arts.
The training you're talking about.
Yeah, not only the training. I think all these things that have been mentioned, probably put a downloadable folder within the website. So that there is no excuse. Then they just make sure that for your show to go through, all these forms need to be filled and signed relevantly, right? It reduces the thing. At least the only thing you're not only looking for information, but you're just moving from door to door, make sure that the things are. I think,
There's something that
I don't know.
There's something that you mentioned in a previous episode, and Mukoma Simba also mentioned it, and Mono mentioned it. There is a calendar phobia amongst our artists. There is a contract phobia, and there is paperwork phobia. So those are things that we need to grow on, so that we can start to put things down on paper. Now, in the age of digital technology or whatever equipment, a little bit in your phone or in your iPad, of just whenever something changes, you just update in there. It just helps you, and then you can cut to your point of entry, print from that, and they can have hard copies.
Chimsoro, I think that's what I will touch what you said. That's what he was saying, and I think Albert as well. If you are not able to have your own manager, get agents to do it. Because there will not be any excuse for not doing things right. I think when we want to professionalize, we can't. If you are unable and you are creative, find someone to do it for you.
Thank you.
It has to be done. I think that's a fact. It has to be done. Trainings are okay. Capacity buildings, they are okay. But we also need entrepreneurs that are going to rise up in this country, the young people who are going to see a huge opportunity in this growing, sleeping giant called the creative industry, where they are going to present to the industry opportunities for collective management of things. I think these are opportunities for entrepreneurs who will come in and cover the gap. They can manage these files for people at very, not so much, but they do so well that everybody will know at the click of a button, I can call so and so. But you also bring an issue that the government is seriously considering. We have been charged with creating a one-stop shop for the purpose of dealing with issues of clearances, whether you are talking of clearances of equipment, bringing in of international artists, and things like that. It's the task that government has given the ministry and the Arts Council to be thinking about. Let's go digital. let someone at the click of a button sit there, knows what to do. You can't be going to Zimura, getting a letter, go to Arts Council, within 5 days you get another, you walk, you go to Zimra, then you pay what? All those things can be housed in an app.
Yeah.
All what it happens is that it gives a notification in Zimura. Zimura downloads, oh, we have this. They do it online. They upload it.
Yeah.
When they've uploaded it, Arts Council gets a notification. There is an application that has been uploaded. Does it have all the things that we are saying about? It ticks the boxes. Arts Council completes everything, uploads to the next office, whether it's Zimra. Zimra gets a notification and does that. Why? Because you create different profiles. It's same app, but Zimura has its own profile, so it can only access at their level. Zimra will only have its profile. And then it goes back to you. In 24 hours or in 48 hours, it tells you what is due in admin fees is so much, and you are still on your system, whether zip it or what, it does. And the next thing, in the next 24 hours, you get your clearance. You now go and print it. Now even when you go to airports, they ask you, where is your boarding pass? You lift up your phone and you scan and you go. We can't remain behind in the digital environment. So this is the challenge that government has given us. And I'm very glad when I come here and I see, I've been to your place and I see all these gadgets and how you guys have been doing things. I think it's time we come together and make National Arts Council work. It's working for the sector. Let's bring skills. Let's move forward.
I want to put you on the spot as our permanent secretary, National Arts Council in Zimura. These three guys here, I'm going to put you on the spot for one minute. You have assisted us in bringing all this equipment into the country, right? It's heavy equipment. And then comes an event that needs to be done. I need to do, National Arts Council comes to me and says, we have a culture week in Bindura. And then I would love to be of assistance. And I want to go and help with the equipment because I've benefited from all this facility and everything. And I want to give back to our arts community and this culture week. Then comes the challenge. I need to transport equipment to take it to Bindura. I got tons and tons of sound equipment, and transportation has become a big challenge. Is there anything in the dim limelight in front of us where arts organizations can get some kind of a rebate to bring in arts-related transportation trucks that can carry that equipment? Trucks, because this equipment has to be transported. Trussing has to be transported.
This is called a sport.
That's a sport.
It's being put on the spot. No.
That was a quick answer.
Qualify the no.
Currently, I'm not saying it's not possible. It's very possible. What we need is conversations around these issues. The SI, the current SI that is there is very clear. It's broadcasting equipment, sound equipment, and musical instruments. It is only an OB van that is already defined as a van, which is a broadcasting van. So that one will come. It's covered because it's broadcasting equipment, because it's defined as broadcasting equipment. But if it's an accessory to help you move from point A to point B, currently it's not covered. All right. So the conversation we need is bringing in on the table, maybe through the National Arts Council, and say these are the challenges that are there. We only want to be able to help go to the next level in this industry. We may not necessarily need an SI, because if we open an SI, we'll have opened for abuse of things, so that we deal with case by case. I think in that way, in my opinion, it could be something that can be considered. It can be another SI for that, because an SI should be something that we say there is a huge need, and that need goes beyond. So it's important. When I said no, that's how I'm looking at it.
Let me remind you of something that you said at one point, Babu Moyo. There was a time that I did the documentary for Diva, and I came to your office and asked you if you could be able to do the opening. And the first thing you said before you even said hi, you said, where is everyone else? And I was like, I came here because I want to do that. And it says, no, I think at your level, there are people who can depend on you to feed their families. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think to a certain extent, he's quite consistent. That's what I'm saying. And to say that, okay, there's all this thing, but there's a truck driver somewhere, that's the only job that they have to feed their thing. I think let's just balance out. We can't really have everything to our thing. Let's spread out and also support other sectors to a little thing. I don't think it's much.
All right. Sure. But my spot for the government now, I know. I know you mentioned that there's a task that you were given to basically create a one-stop shop, and you're looking at those digital initiatives. Is there a progressive approach to this where certain things can be done in the now? Like if I say I've got an artist coming in August, to actually create the synergies, because I think you have to go through 5, if not 6 bodies at the moment, your immigration, this and that, and you have to travel to these offices. Yeah. So before that, how soon, before the app and all, how soon can we expect that I'm just going in one office and the paperwork is processed even before we digitalize? Because this has been there, since 19 all along.
I'll tell you quickly, because that's why it's important at times to digitizing. Why then it becomes an easy way out? It's because it's not easy to come to a place where door number 11, it's Zemura. Door number 12 is National Arts Council. Door number 13, it's ZRP. And door number 14, so that they are like, you are not going to different, because then you can't have a ZRP waiting when it doesn't know who is coming today. Because unfortunately, it's not a service that is sought on a daily basis, unfortunately. So that's why going digital, it's the easy way, because you also can't have Zimra just placing their officer, whether it becomes one big office like this with a table there for it means one day you will come and there is only one person waiting. Then they tell, they only come on Wednesdays. Or else you go there. So that's why we are trying to push. There could be other ways of doing it. But as government, when we looked at these challenges, because we are different institutions, it's government, but already Zimra, it's Minister of Finance. ZRP, it's Minister of Home Affairs and Cultural Heritage. Then comes my ministry. So already we are different ministries that also have different mandates, they're needing to do things in a certain space. So that's why we're saying now when you go digital, it means they have different profiles. And we'll know how to act. It's easy, now to say, but we have uploaded. How come no one has attended to this in the prescribed 10-hour or something like that? Like, so that we know, if we say maximum 5 working days, we have at least given each office about 24 hours turnover, because maybe the person who is dealing with that, who has the profile, has a bereavement in the family. So he's unable on a particular day when you send them to be able. Or there was a huge event in the ministry and everybody's busy out there doing something. So we that's why government will say at least maximum 5 working days. But you have come to my office. Things have worked quicker. So at times within 3 days, all your paperwork is is that we are looking forward to that. But there could be, like I said, let's have conversations. And that's why I said, let the sector come, bring Arts Council and the ministry. We don't have all the brains. We are policy. We are administrative at the Arts Council. The brains is out there. You know the people that have the brains. It is time you bring them. Let's have this conversation. Let's help. You know, at times we have worked with you talked about culture, something.
Culture Week.
Yeah, Culture Week. Now it's called Culture Month.
Yeah.
Herman, when he imported equipment, came and said, I have benefited from this facility. I'm offering to do the Culture Week then, national launches, gratis, free of charge. All what I want is support. He had a truck then. All what I want is just to enjoy. And if you think at how much a rig cost, and he comes there, he knocks it off your budget. And Arts Council, we knew every year you could give a call to him. And the other time it was L&L, you know, so there are people out there that have actually benefited, and they don't see the government as just their source of income. They come and say, it's our time to give back to the people through government with the equipment that we have actually hired. And I think if we also grow this spirit of social corporate responsibility, you know, it will close this gap between them and us. And then we move and we oil the wheels together.
Sure.
No, I'm in total agreement.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nkoma. That's really...
There's no better way of saying it. Yes, said it all.
Sure.
Probably, since all the brains are here, probably the relevant officers. I did mention to you that earlier on, probably I just need the advice that we're rebranding to be called Institute of Media and Creative Arts. And one of the things that we realize that in skills transfer, sometimes it would be easier to get other people coming from outside to do workshops, empowerment things. Like, I'll give you an example. What has really grown, for example, the South African media sector, is that probably a college may invite an actor from America, come and do a workshop, then do a short film, and then do like that. So I just wanted to find out, it's a similar model that we want to try and adopt, because I believe that way, through exposure and working with other people, it really raises the bar. What is the procedure for that? Is there anything that's already in the limelight to that effect, whereby they come in working temporarily without paying or something, my duties and all those kind of things, of which obviously it then benefits the sector as a whole?
I'll take that. Maybe Aga, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Wakuru.
I'm the one who was put on the head of the table. Take more questions. There is something which you call a temporary work permit. That is not just for the creative sector. It's across sectors. The temporary work permit costs $500 and is paid through immigration. It's a law throughout the country. I think, Albert, we have traveled all over the world. At times it's embedded on your visa, type of visa. That's why they will say, are you visiting? Are you coming to do paid work? Once you make a mistake and tick under paid work, when then they open how much you should pay for your visa, it is quadruple.
Yeah.
All right. So it's the temporary work permit. And if it's in the creative, again, it's through the National Arts Council.
Yeah.
But what has happened over years is that when it comes to musicians, for example, when you bring in a band and it has 8 people, you don't pay 500 times 8 because they are not coming to perform individually. It's a band. So the product, it's one. That's when you is different. You know, it's when you the creatives, the definitions then differ. So Ministry of Home Affairs, through the immigration, then gave a waiver with that understanding that when it comes to the creative, that work permit is a group work permit, but given to individuals that are coming.
Yeah.
So you'll still pay 500, but for all the 8.
Yes.
Okay. Then we went further
Yeah.
and said, maybe because we've already invested so much in music, rebate in instruments and things like that. But we have other sectors that are not yet at that level in terms of disciplines. So there's always been a room, and this has happened for a long time, that the Department of Immigration has given a lot of waivers in the creative industry.
Yeah.
So when it's like what we are talking about, the example that you brought, approach the Arts Council, you give your what we have written there, and they will write requesting for a waiver. We are at a time when the sleeping giant needs to be awakened in the creative industry. And government's involvement and investment is at times to give those waivers so that the products and the capacity building within ourselves and skills transfer will then help us in the tomorrow. This is why the Arts Council has declared these coming 2 years as season of film. So it's a year of film, beginning last year. It's a window that creatives should be saying, if government has said this is a year of film, what does it mean? It means this year there is this opening. Let's do all what we can get to ensure after this our film is taken to the next level.
Wonderful. Wonderful. You got something to say?
Yeah, I was just about to say there are some who are in film that don't even know that this is going on. It's not the government's fault. You need to be plugged in for you to know what's going on. My last concern, I think largely I've been supporting government because those processes are working.
They're working.
That's the
works
truth.
is working.
Yes.
Yeah, true. And I want to second that the processes are working. For the first time in the history of Zimbabwe, we have been included on the national budget by the finance minister, and a dedicated fund towards construction of 2 major film studios, and also construction of arts and culture of amenities across the country. So it shows that there are deliberate moves to make sure that there's upholding of this industry.
And I know in an increasingly mobile community or world, artists, you're out there and you've got your phone and you've got your mobile device. These are important things to get yourself educated on. And, we will continue to have our permanent secretary, National Arts Council, Albert. If you have any subjects that people need to hear and be educated on, this is the platform for us to be able to do that, because we want to try and see if we can bring illumination. That illumination brings understanding, and just throw a lot of light in areas that are gray. And as Mukoma Simba said, let's not be quick to say, this is not working, this is not working, this is not working. Or if I say something positive that is working, or I'm trying to kiss up to someone or please someone. No, if it's working, it is working. So we do ourselves a favor by educating ourselves and, getting into those details. And as Mkoma Moe said, let's have managers, let's have leaders, let's have delegated functions, so that we are not just doing everything in one place. Empower other people, create jobs and employment, from the way we run our things. And that way we are actually replicating, we are multiplying, and more people can do the same thing that you're doing now. Because if you do it all by yourself, I'll go back to a biblical principle. Paul says to Timothy, these things that I've taught you, I want you to pass them on to faithful people who are able to pass it on. The whole principle is about passing it on. You see, so whatever you have, don't hold on to yourself and just like, oh, this is mine, or hold it, Train other people.
Amen to that.
So, Mfundis.
Yes.
Izimira is planning an annual event, which is a concert turning into a festival.
Yeah.
So, the favor that you did for the Arts Council.
Can it be extended?
You have been a member.
Yes.
Even probably before I was a member. Yeah, because you know how struggles are like. Are we able to get equipment?
Offline.
No, I wanted to put him on the spot.
I'm the one
On the spot. I was trying to reduce pressure from you because
probably last contribution is concerning the level of professionalism as well. On both ends, actually. He mentioned how a budget has been availed for the studios to be built. When I heard that, I'm a visual person.
Sure.
I started seeing those, like if you've been to Dubai Media City, where there's those two, those huge studios. They've got the large green screens, what have you. They can literally act anything. Your Tom Cruise has used that several times. I hope our vision is going to be like that, where we know as government we've allocated this funding. We then ensure the professionals then work on such things, and we have such a vision where we say 2026 or 2027, we need Will Smith to be in this studio, and we also promote that skills transfer. I've been on the technical side for quite a lot of years, and you ask someone, can you please pass me that balanced jack? This is a sound engineer, and then they look at you, they're like, what's that? And I always ask, what are you doing in this industry if you don't know what a balanced jack is? And then you hear someone saying, our government. It has nothing to do with the government. Let's push our standards first individually, then we put the government to task, and we say, you built a substandard studio. But if you go to them and you say you built a substandard studio, they'll ask you, what do you mean? You'll be like, it's just not the right standard. You have to be able to quantify and say, technically, you are supposed to have put, you are into acoustics. This is what this building was supposed to have, properly measured and all. So before we actually put them to task as well, which we've just done, make sure those studios, are up to... are at par with international standards, but let us improve as the technicals first, and we register. Then you only speak when you are registered. I cannot tell Mbaki's father that I want chicken today. I don't have his surname on my ID. So if you're not even registered, why then do you want to talk? That's why you then have all those conversations on Facebook, mob psychology, but it doesn't get us anywhere. Then the ones who have things working are quiet. We are quiet, Pastor. Things are working. So let's join in and we make our industry better. Cold Hard Facts is about making this industry better.
So my in response, thank you, Mkoma Simba, I appreciate that. And in my indirect response to you is my next big project that I'm working on, where I am knocking on everyone's door, and your doors, and your door.
Mine is closed.
That one has been open for a long time.
One door that never closes.
So the door does, the reason why I'm coming to knock on all the doors is because there's one man that I have wanted to honor, we need to honor in the country. I use the word we need to honor because many of us are consumers of products that have come from him. A man that has trained me for the last 30 years, Mukoma Botho Nyamondera. So that is the next project that we're working on. So we have been working on a film on Botho Nyamondera for the last 20-something years, where we've interviewed everyone from Thomas Mafumo to Oliver Mtugudzi, Baba Manyeruke, Baba Charamba, and so forth. And people, we have all consumed things that have come from Botho Nyamondera. So we want to honor him and have an event where artists come and perform. And he does not operate any equipment at that time. He's just sitting there and honor and bring, the recognition that rightfully belongs to him. So that's the thing I'm talking about.
And I really support that because it actually adds value to our institution's repository, because we don't have much of this, material that's documented for our own heroes in the media sector. So definitely,
And just to, on that, Steve Roskilly sent me a whole history of how Botho came to Harare when he worked at Chet Studios, and he put his interview on video, and I have all the pictures from David Scobie, from everyone. So with John Jagwe and I are working on that film together, and it's come a long way. We've got Louis Mtlanga, Sam Mataure, Tango Kwasando, all those people that worked with him from
That's
the
huge.
So it's definitely something that it's getting our hearts pumping. So Mkoma.
With the involvement
Thank you.
of Joe.
We are
Jagwe.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
We are wait.
Yeah. So I want to thank you all for coming, and you and I are going to be talking a lot. Thank you. Okay. And I want to really appreciate, and we don't need more. We're going to need to sit down again together, because there's a lot that you have. I can tell there's a lot of treasure inside you that didn't have enough time to be able to come out. And you as well. And also I want to thank our behind the scenes crew. My son David is right there on the camera. He's a filmmaker, and you should see some of the films that he has made. And Julius on the camera. We've got Mkoma Enias Mayanga, my friend for many, many years, right there on the camera. We've got Farai Mgaro. He's there on the camera. Then Mkoma Frederick Nyahando is behind the scenes inside the control room. He's in there. So this is, and our sister, thank you so much for coming as well. And I will look forward to having you guys on the table again.
Right.
And Permanent
It's our
Secretary,
pleasure.
thank you so much. I don't
It's
even know
my
what to
pleasure.
call you. Permanent Secretary, Mukoma Nicholas. Everything. And thank you so
Thank
much, guys.
you.
I really appreciate it. There's a lot to uncover.
All right.
There's a lot to unpack.
All right.
And I'm honored that you guys are able to.
Thank you.
It's
for
our
your
pleasure.
Thank you.
Closing shot.
Sure.
I couldn't hold
The
this
cold
one.
hard fact.
Right.
Give us the cold hard fact.
Never give a pastor a microphone. Just to thank you for what you're doing for Mkoma Bothwell. I think a lot of people would not know, like our upcoming engineers, who he actually is.
Yeah.
There's this trend, Mbaki, when you mix the kick drum, it's like standard in Zimbabwe. There's this thump that we create. It actually came from Mkoma Bothwell, especially when he was doing mixes for Macheso. And even people being confident in creating bright mixes. It came from Mkoma Bothwell.
Yeah.
So now people will be saying, no, your kick is not sounding nice. It came from him. So all of us were copying all of those
created
standards.
the mixing template in people's heads.
Exactly.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. But then we don't recognize such talent. We don't even go to learn from such talent,
Yeah.
We think YouTube is the richest,
No, it's
but we actually have...
And we want to honor him. He is walking amongst us.
Yes.
Yeah, it's when I look at Bothwell and I think of Timon, Mabalega, those two, because I worked with them.
Parting shot.
Thank you so much, guys. And I will clap when closing. Thank you, guys.